Glasgow Electric Plant Board. Glasgow wants to know. With your host, Mr. Uhel Barrickman.
To discuss a little-known part of the Kentucky Education Reform Act, commonly called KERA. It is an important part of the Act, but a part that has not been implemented in all of the districts of Kentucky as yet, and possibly and probably will never be implemented in all of them. To discuss this Act, or these parts of the Act that you don't know much about, we have three young people here tonight who are actively engaged in implementing the Act, two in the Barron County school system and one in the KERA school system. They are Kris Bixler, who is the student assistant coordinator of the Barron County School. To her left is Alan Poynter, who is the coordinator for the part of the Act that is at the Barron County Middle School and High School, which is commonly called the Youth Service Center. And then from KERA, and seating to the left of Alan, we have Kathy Clara of the KERA system, who is the coordinator of the Family Resource Center at KERA. Perhaps, Kathy, the first thing you should explain is the difference between the Family Resource Center and the Youth Service Center.
The Family Resource Centers are those centers that are established to serve students in the elementary school or in preschool. And for centers that are established to serve students in middle and high schools, those are referred to as the Youth Service Centers. My particular center is what's called a combined center because I service students from preschool through 12th grade. So it's called a Family Resource Youth Service Center.
Now, how does a school, well, let's back up a little bit. What are the basics for this law? What's the reason for this part of KERA?
The centers were established to assist students in facilitate their ability to be successful in school. What our legislatures came to understand was that a lot of times the reasons that students were not successful in school had very little to do with the programs in school and with the teachers' abilities to teach. What they found is that there are a lot of social problems that occur. For instance, there are children that perhaps don't have the good shelter to live in. Maybe they have a dysfunctional family that they go home to every night. They may not have proper clothing. They may not have proper parental supervision. There's a lot of social problems that go on that prevent students from learning in school. And what the centers were established for was to try to overcome these obstacles and so that students will be successful.
Alan, how does a school go about getting one of these centers? For instance, how does Barron County get its center?
The basis for a center being established for a school system is that there must be at least 20% of the student body of the schools that are applying to have free or reduced lunches. Now, don't get us wrong in thinking that these services are only used on these students. That is just the basis for establishing a center. The rationale was that if a school had at least 20% of its student body that were on free or reduced lunch, that then the chances are there are a lot of social problems in that school. There are a lot of kids that may have difficulty learning. There may be a lot of problems that may be faced by these families. So if we can target these funds that the state has given these youth service centers and family resource centers for schools with these numbers, then some of these problems can be alleviated.
Well, do you have to find more than the 20% that you mentioned? In other words, is there any kind of survey that is required that touches the specific problems that may be involved, other than the lunches and the need for assistance as far as food is concerned?
There sure is. We have a needs survey, a needs assessment that we do each year, and this is our first year established in Barron County. And last fall, a needs assessment went out to families, students, and community members. And the results from this came back, and there are a lot of needs out in the community, and we found these needs out, and we try to target the top 10, I'd say, needs for the services provided by the Youth Service Center.
We'll get into these needs that were found a little bit later. Kathy, how come you've only got the Family Resource Center in Caverna?
Is the question like why there are not family resource centers throughout Barron County? Is that what you wanted to know? Well, they have been applied for, and probably Ms. Bixler could answer that better since she was involved in the grant process.
Okay, Kris, let's have your answer.
Okay. In Barron County, we do not have any family resource centers at the present time. All of our 6 schools except one in Barron County, our elementary K through 6, qualify by having the 20% free lunches. But our numbers are not sufficient to warrant enough money. The allotments are based on $200 per free lunch per school. So if we only have a small enrollment in a school, and then you only have 20% of that particular school enrollment, that doesn't give you enough money to warrant having a coordinator and a program. This year we are applying for one individual family resource center at Heightsville, which we think we can, we qualify right now for $29,000 for one school at Heightsville, one center, and that would be a family resource center. I feel that it would be very beneficial to have this single center at Heightsville. Then we are going to apply for a combined center to service Park City and Red Cross. With our enrollments not very large, whenever you get 20% of a small enrollment times $200, it still doesn't come out to enough money to operate a center sufficiently. In the past, we have we've written 2 different grants so far for family resource centers, and we're unsuccessful. The first time we applied for a combined grant with Heightsville and Park City, and then they would have served those 2 schools. That was not funded, and then we applied for a grant last year to service Red Cross, Park City, and Heightsville, and have Park City to be the center, and with Heightsville and Red Cross having outreach offices. That also was not funded. So this year we're trying another route with 2 different grants and proposals, and hopefully we will get the one, especially at Heightsville. I think it's very needed. We would love to see a center in all the schools. Eastern Elementary does not qualify for even an application.
Where are the applications made?
I write the applications, or we have a committee, an advisory committee that meets, and this advisory committee will devise an instrument called the needs assessment that Alan has just referred to, and we survey all at the high school and middle school level. We survey all the students to see what they would like to see done and what they feel like their needs are. We also, at the middle school level, will survey all the parents and faculty and staff, and that includes cooks, bus drivers, anybody that's associated with the school, and we attempt to get out to some of the community. And we know at the high school level, if we send a survey home with the students, we won't get it back. So, like last Friday night, Alan and I were at the Barron County basketball game, and we attempted to get surveys out to some of the people that were there. a random survey mostly is what we can do with the parents and community members. Then at the elementary school level, we will survey all the parents and all the teachers and faculty members and try to get to the community members. And each area will have its own advisory committee. The Youth Service Center has its own advisory committee. We will have an advisory committee for Park City Red Cross and an advisory committee for the high school proposal, which will be made up of parents who are the most important parents, teachers, 2 teachers from each school, a principal. We would try to get social workers, someone from maybe the Y, the health department, community agencies. And after we get this needs assessment devised and get it the survey completed and tallied, the advisory committee will collectively write the proposal. And then that is a major process. It's like publishing a book. And we have to get interlocal agreements with all of the community agencies saying that they will provide certain services for each center if it is funded, and what they will do and what we will do as a school board.
Then the application is sent to?
The application is sent to Frankfurt. And there are committees. Well, first you have to have, they have very strict criteria. X number of copies, first of all. And it has to be in a very rigid format. Everything has to be exactly as they have outlined. And the first thing they do is go through those proposals, and if there is one item missing, it's not even read. It's completely tossed out. They don't call and say, you missed a section. You don't hear from them.
Does the state send a representative back to the local district to do an informal spot check, sort of a spot check survey on their own?
Of the proposal writing? Yes, they will have a representative who usually comes to Bowling Green, and then we will schedule appointments and go down, and he'll give us some advice on what we might need, on where our deficiencies are, and how he thinks that we can improve our proposal. But we send those proposals to Frankfurt, and like I say, the first thing they do is just scan everything. And one time, our first proposal was not even read because it did not have 1/3 of the advisory committee was not parents. We really had more community agencies on it than we did parents. But that was a specific, it was an oversight, and it was not, it was just an error on our part, so it wasn't read. So we're very careful, extremely careful of abiding by all of the guidelines. So after they have determined that we have met all the criteria for each proposal, then there are a committee of 3 people, and they each read the proposals, and they have a certain rating scale to make sure that you have met all the qualifications, and then it's tallied. And if these 3 do not come within a certain range, agree as a cohesive agreement, then another group of 3 will read it to see if they can come to more of an agreement. And then as all of the proposals that are sent in through the state, after they've been ranked, they will just start with the highest ones that have the highest ratings and start awarding the grants. And then when the money's gone, it's gone.
You mean when the state money is appropriated for that particular part of KERA is gone, that's it?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And
even if you have rated good.
Is there any matching required on the part of the local district? Like a lot of these government grants, have to be matched locally. Is there any requirement on the grants for these type centers by the local district?
Not actually matching money. They require you to have in-kind matching, in which of the schools, of course, they furnish a site for the centers, and utilities. They count all of that. Copy machines, a lot of times, copy papers, sometimes clerical, sometimes postage. We also try to get donations, but there are no requirements as far as a match. No.
Other than you and Alan, what other personnel in the district is directly connected with the center?
At the Youth Service Center, we have one program assistant, and this is Alan. Alan hires this person, and she works directly under him. Her office is at the outreach office at the high school, and Alan and his assistant are the primary people at the Youth Service Center. There's also a part-time clerical.
I believe that insofar as the people who can use the centers, they're limited to the students and the families within the district. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Mostly, on the most part. For instance, for me to service families, in most instances, they would have to reside in the Caverna School District, especially if this involves use of our direct funding. We do have emergency money available where we can actually help families out financially if they are unable to receive any kind of this service from any other agency. For instance, last year we spent approximately $2,000 on direct health care for students that fell through the cracks, so to speak, where the family did not have any kind of health insurance and students needed assistance in, say, eyeglasses or prescriptions and so forth. Now, when I have certain activities such as parenting classes that are really available to the public at large, I do advertise, say for instance, in the Glasgow paper, and it does not matter whether or not families are in the Caverna School District. They could live in Hart County, Barron County, whatever, and they can attend these classes. Also, if families or persons want to call the center to receive referral information, say for instance they have a particular need, maybe they want help with their utilities and they don't know where to go, I will provide them with referral information.
And Caverna is the only district that affects, in other words, the Hart County system, the Hart County School District does not have one of these centers. Is that correct, or do they?
The Hart County school system has several centers. They have a combined center for the high school and Mumford Elementary School, and then they have 2 family resource centers separate from that. In fact, the total school district is covered by family resource youth service centers at this time.
My next question, Alan, which you may or may not know, as I understand it, and I know this, the Glasgow Independent District does not have one of these services. Do you know whether they've ever made an application for one of them?
To my knowledge, I'm not really for sure if they have applied. I've spoken with Bob Reese, the Director of People Personnel, on different occasions, and they are interested, I know that, and they have been to meetings, as Kris referenced to the meetings in Bowling Green, they've attended those meetings, and I'm just to be honest, I'm not for sure their status on application as far as this year is concerned.
Now let's talk a little bit about the surveys that have to be made before you can make application for one of these grants. First, we'll talk about Caverna, Kathy. What did your survey disclose that showed the need for it in your district?
Well, when the initial surveys were done, I was not a part of the Family Resource Youth Service Center yet. I had not been hired and really didn't even know about the programs. But in reading the assessments, what they did was they did do a needs assessment with the students at the high school and also with the parents and some of the community leaders. But they did find that there were a lot of concerns. The greatest concern for parents of elementary children in the Caverna School District seemed to be trying to access health services. At the KERA district, in the elementary school, we have 50% of our students on free school lunch. So we do have a high poverty rate, and there are a lot of students that were having difficulty getting health services. In the high school, as far as the students were concerned, they had a primary concern for being able to find employment, being able to be ready for an employment situation after they graduate from high school. That seemed to be their primary concern for the students.
How long has KERA had a center?
This is the second year. It was implemented in July of 1993.
What was found in the survey and that led to the establishment of the center in Barron County, Alan?
A lot of the similar needs that KERA had were also found at Barron County. A lot of the high school students are concerned about jobs. Parents are concerned about career placement, job training programs, things like that. Also, something that was found as a concern as far as parents and students alike were a lot of drug and alcohol abuse, substance abuse, those kinds of issues. And so it's our task to try to link them to services that provided services that aided for drug and alcohol abuse and counseling, that type of thing.
Was there or did you find quite a drug problem in the Barron County system?
Well, I'm not exactly for sure the statistics. Mrs. Bixler might be able to answer that one better, but I think the philosophy is that any student with a drug and alcohol problem, if that student is in your school district, then that district has a drug and alcohol problem. And that's the philosophy that I think Barron County takes.
I don't think anybody would argue with that, but I'm just wondering, for instance, there was here in the Glasgow system last Thursday or Friday, they brought in a dog to sniff lockers and so forth for drugs, and they found some in the high school. And I was just wondering how much of a problem. He keeps turning to you. Have you got an answer?
Well, being the Student Assistance Coordinator, drugs and alcohol is supposedly my specialty, the area that I deal with. I was hired to deal with students and their parents, the students who are policy violators or who are experiencing problems. I wouldn't say that Barron County has any greater problem than any of our other schools in this region, but we do address it very closely, and I'm not naive enough to think that we would not have, if we bring in the dogs, that we will find something, I'm sure, there. At Barron County, we have a very strict drug and alcohol policy, and that includes look-alikes and inhalants. We do want to help the students if there's any way possible. The first time that a student is in violation of a drug and alcohol policy, they are automatically given a 5-day suspension, and they are required to obtain a professional drug and alcohol assessment. And then they have to follow through with that, and we always file charges with the county attorney's office, whether it be the court-designated worker for a juvenile, or if they're over 18, then with the county attorney for the adult court. Now, if a student or their parents choose not to do the assessment and just say, well, we're not going to do this, and do not follow through, and I do follow closely with the professionals who do the assessments and work very closely with the juvenile court. If they choose not to follow the recommendation, then we recommend that they be expelled from school. And we do not like to expel a student because this does nothing but put them out with a lot of idle time on their hands. Our main objective is to really find some counseling to see if there is a problem. Now, the second time there's a policy violation, it's an automatic 10-day suspension. A reassessment, they have to have a reassessment, and of course, once again, since there's been a law broken, there are charges filed. And this is not it's not left up to anybody's discretion, the principals, anywhere. This is our policy. It was approved by the board, and we all adhere to those rules. Now, the third time, this is for possession or being under the influence, the student is automatically recommended to be expelled. If they're selling or transferring, passing a substance from student to student, the first time they're automatically given a 10-day suspension with the same alternatives with the assessment, and of course charges are filed. And the second time, they're automatically expelled. It has been said, well, we shouldn't let them back in if they do this. But we really feel that everyone is entitled to at least one mistake. And hopefully, we're there to help the student. We're not there to just get rid of them. Now this policy begins when they're in the first grade. Or this is just hypothetical. If in the first grade they had brought beer to school, and the youngest I've known has been a fourth grader that has brought beer to school. But, that child, the fourth grader, that's his first offense.
What do you do as a parent when you catch one that's with alcohol or drugs?
The parent has to come in, and they, and here at Life Skills, when they have an assessment, when the student has an assessment, the parent is included in that. And the parents also have to attend some counseling.
How often do you find that the parent has set the example?
Well, if for a fourth grader to bring alcohol to school, more than likely they have gotten it from their parents. And of course,
well, is that true on up the ladder? And even when you get to teenagers, if you have I guess my question is, if you have a teenager that's got an alcoholic problem, how often do you find that the parent also has the same problem?
Well, it's a great majority. The percentage is very high. If a parent has an alcohol problem, the chances of a male child becoming an alcoholic is 4 times greater than a child who does not have a father who's an alcoholic or have an alcohol problem. For a female, it's about 2 times greater. But many times, a student has a problem with drugs and alcohol where there is no history at all. Or if their parents do not have a problem, it could go back to their grandparents and skip a generation. So, all of that is taken into account when they do the assessment.
Kathy, drugs and alcohol in the Caverna district, do you have much of a problem there? Or?
Well, again, I guess it's difficult to compare to other school systems because that's the only one I'm involved in. I do not get involved in the same situations that Ms. Bixler does, as far as I've not had a lot of contact with students who have been disciplined because of being under the influence of school or having possession of drugs and alcohol. I guess I'm a little bit separate from the typical school administration and discipline. My involvement with students using drugs and alcohol, I have had some involvement with that, but usually that has come out as a secondary problem. For instance, let's say a student, I can think of one particular instance where a student had a runaway problem, and then in talking with the student about that problem, I found out that the student admitted to me that she had drug and alcohol problems. So a lot of times this information comes out secondary to myself. What I do in that, so it's not a situation where the student needs to be disciplined by the school. What I've done in those situations is, first of all, if it provides some education to the student and do an assessment. If it seems that the student, there's maybe a difference between experimentation and how extensive a problem may be. Of course, we do have a principle that no students should be using drugs or alcohol, but what I would do after an assessment is encourage the student, if it seems to be a problem, to tell the parents about it. In fact, I've even gone with students to the home to inform parents with the student that there indeed is a problem and something needs to be done. There needs to be some kind of intervention.
And what good has that done? What's the parents
Well,
do about it?
well, I've had different reactions, and again, your question or your comment about that sometimes it may be the parents that created the problem. I have found that to be the case sometimes, and I sometimes have found occasionally it's not the rule that parents are resistive to the students receiving treatment, that somehow they feel that that's a threat to their particular lifestyle, and they don't want an intervention in the family. But on the other hand, what happens more often is that parents are interested in doing the best for their son or daughter, and they are willing to have a drug and alcohol assessment by Life Skills and provide counseling. We're fortunate in the Caverna district in that we have Life Skills therapists that come to our schools. We have two therapists that come to the elementary school to deal with all kinds of problems with students. They do counseling right at the school facility, as well as maybe do counseling with the parent at the school. We also have a therapist this year that has begun coming to the high school. And so he comes once a week to the high school and is able to provide counseling for the students right at school. So we don't have the problem of trying to transport students or have parents take students to one of the facilities. So that's worked very well. And the parents actually come to the school, or I may make a home visit to the parent, or the life skills therapist and I make home visit the parents together to let them know how the student's doing and what the treatment program is. So that's working very well, and we've had a lot of success with that program.
I'm not neglecting you, Alan. You have your share of the talking before it is over with. From the conversations that we've already had here, it's obvious that and one of the purposes of these centers is to get the people that have problems, parents and children, in contact with other services that can aid in curing or preventing some of these problems. What are some of these services, and are all of them other types of governmental services, or do you have some volunteer services?
Well, both. We try not to duplicate any services through the Youth Service Center. We're not actually a provider of services, but we try to hook up families and students with services, like they mentioned before, with Life Skills for counseling, either for mental health issues or for drug and alcohol counseling. Other social service type of agencies, like, for example, food stamps, Department for Social Services for child welfare needs. Also, emergency crisis type of agencies that are set up, like community relief for housing and food and clothing. Those kinds of services that students need that may be causing them some difficulty. They can't function in school properly. They can't concentrate for whatever reason. If there's a need or a reason behind that, then we try to help them alleviate that need by hooking them up with a service. The parents may or may not know that the services are out there, or may not know how to access them. So I take it as my job to know what services are out there and to know how to get the student and the family to that service, or that service to them.
Suppose you have a family that has medical problems and a child that has a medical problem that's in school. What service do you use there?
Well, it just depends. When we first get a referral, for any referral, we have to do our own agency kind of a needs assessment, just to go in, visit with the family, talk with the parents and the student to find out exactly what needs are there. If in fact there are medical needs, we would, if it's a matter of a phone call to help arrange to obtain a medical card. The family may or may not be qualified for a medical card, and if they are, we would try to get them that medical card service. If they don't qualify for a medical card, and if they still have bills or medical needs that they have, we can try to find agencies or private groups or individuals that would try to help us in paying for these services. And as a last resort, as Kathy mentioned before, we do have a small allotment of funds that we can pay for eye exams or eyeglasses or medical assessments, those types of things, if in fact that need arises.
Do you have problems in, for instance, Kris referred earlier to one instance where you weren't able to get a grant because you had more community people volunteering than parents. Do you have a problem in getting parents, the necessary parents?
Well,
and again, I'm talking to you, Alan.
Okay. We are required by the state to have 1/3 on an advisory council, 1/3 membership of parents. And I will admit it is a lot more difficult on the high school level to get parents involved.
Why?
Probably.
Surely you've come to some conclusion as to why, after interviewing these people and talking to them and trying to get them to volunteer. Why is that, in your opinion?
I think typically on the elementary level, parents are a lot more willing and to come into the school system to find out what's going on, to see what their students are doing, to see what the teachers and other staff members are doing with their child. However, once a student gets up to the high school age especially, they tend to go on their own. Parents tend to stay away. That's not something that we encourage, of course. We are looking at volunteer programs for the high school where parents can come in and work with teachers and with students and actually work one-on-one with these folks to see exactly what we are doing in school with their students.
Well, what reasons do the parents give when they don't want to volunteer and they don't want to help of these teenagers?
I don't think it's that they don't want to help. It's a lot more obligations, and maybe they feel like, too, that once a student is, up 15, 16 years old, that they can maybe do more for themselves and they probably wouldn't need them there, or maybe they feel like their son or daughter wouldn't want them there. Sometimes the students are more reluctant to want their mom and dad to come into school. But like I say, we do encourage parents to visit, to volunteer, to see what else they can do for the school system, to see exactly what we're doing for their child.
Do you have any problems in either system? And I'll let anybody tackle this one that wants to. But you see in the paper almost every day, and you see something about it on television almost every day, and radio news programs about teenage pregnancy problems. Do you have teenage pregnancy problems in either of these districts? And as I'll say, I'll let anybody that wants to tackle it.
Well, I'll be glad to discuss that. As far as at Barron County, we have a daycare at the Barron County High School for teen parents who are enrolled at school that may bring their babies to school. We have an excellent daycare. Each of the parents, if their fathers are there, of course we always seem to say moms, but we do have fathers also. Excuse me. They have to work in the daycare for 1 hour per day. There is no charge to them. These students are also required to take parenthood classes so that we can teach them proper parenting skills. Also they're required to take at least one non-traditional class so that they, such as an ag class or maybe a vocational type class, so that we try to give them the education that they can get out and get a better job than a minimum wage and to stay in school. And we also feel that they need to have the exposure as to what's out there. We encourage the vocational school a lot for these teen moms. But now we have a lot of teen moms who are in our academic advanced placement classes that do well but we also require them to take a non-traditional class also. Miss Marilyn Bailey has written a grant and she is the one who is responsible for forming the daycare. She does a wonderful job. We have Mrs. Bailey and I and the program assistant from the Youth Service Center conduct a support group for the teen parents. and we do this twice a week, and it seems to be one of the best services that we could offer these teen moms and dads. We answer many questions. What if they're pregnant? They're going through a lot of things their body is going through, changes that they're not familiar with. They don't know what to expect. Maybe they don't have anyone at home to help them out. You know, sometimes not all parents are willing to open their arms to their daughter who is pregnant, unmarried maybe, or 15 years old, who's going to have a baby. It's hard for that parent to accept the situation. In some cases, not all cases, many other parents are very supportive of these young girls and provide wonderful homes. And I have found that it's real surprising how many dependents are covered on their parents' insurance. I believe it's Eaton or Donnelly, one of the factories here. Their insurance covers a dependent child's pregnancy. And I did not know that. I didn't know any insurances did that. So, you know, but we do have a lot of young girls who do not have any type of insurance. And we have a lot of questions as to, you know, how to get a medical card. How long does a medical card last? How good is it? You know, what does it cover? So, in fact, this Wednesday, in group, Alan has arranged for Randall Franklin with the SSI office, I suppose, to be in our support group and to explain to these girls how you get a medical card, what you do, what it will cover, how long. I mean, there's a limit as to how long a mom can stay on the medical card is different as to how long the baby can stay on the medical card. There's just many questions that they need to have. We try to service their needs. One young girl has been asked to leave her home, and she has, through the Youth Service Center, she was gotten some housing in Section 8 housing. We've been able to get her some furniture. We have, you know, made arrangements for doctor's appointments and things for her. We find that our daycare is one of the most beneficial programs that we have at Barron County High. A lot of people.
How many you have in it?
Well, we can only service 7 babies. That's all the daycare is equipped for. But that generally will service what our needs are. Now, we have about 20 girls who are either pregnant or have already delivered their children. Some children do not bring, some girls don't bring their babies to school. Maybe their moms will keep them, or they prefer to leave them at home. Of course, the girls that are pregnant, then we have several that are going to deliver like toward the end of this semester. So by next fall, we'll have a crop of new 7 babies. So it's
Are they
continuously
usually in the early teens or late teens or middle teens? Or I realize that
usually
it covers the whole
right
spectrum, but
I'd say we have possibly the youngest I can think of right off my top of my head has been 14.
have you been able to,
14.
let's take a girl that gets pregnant after she's already in high school, or generally are you able to keep her in, or
Yes.
do they drop out?
We have had real good success with keeping these girls in school. I can only think of 2 that have dropped out. And it just, you know, and one of those girls was married. It was not a good marriage. It was a bad situation at home. And you know, she just chose to drop out of school and work, and she was a senior. And that's really unfortunate. We do everything we can to keep them in school.
In those cases where you do happen, or the father is identified, is he usually helpful, or you have difficulty getting him to acknowledge that he's got some responsibility?
For the greatest majority, the fathers are very helpful. They will acknowledge that it is their child, and We have had fathers who've worked in the daycare who've come to our support group, and they are very much interested in their baby, even though some of them are married and some are not. Some plan to get married after they get out of school. Society is changing. You know, it's much more acceptable. We have also, Miss Bailey and I have, Rita Staley from the Extension office comes in and she talks with the girls about nutrition during pregnancy, prenatal, how important it is for them to have adequate prenatal care. We also talk to them about how important it is to exercise birth control after the birth of their child so that they can continue to finish their education. And
that raises a good question. In your system, in Caverna,
Yes.
somebody comes in and wants information on birth control. They're not pregnant and haven't been, don't have any children. What do you do?
Well, if it's on an individual basis, first of all, well, it's never happened with a male. It has happened a couple times with females. First of all, you know, again, we inform the student that it's, you know, the dangers of having sexual activity at all. You know, that you know, that it would be best if they would practice abstinence. We don't actually give out birth control information at the center, and we are forbidden to give out any birth control itself. So that's never done at any of the centers. We do not give out birth control. But what we would do if we know if a young woman comes to us and tells us that she has been sexually active, we would encourage her to talk to her parents about it, but we understand that a lot of times they aren't going to do that. Children do not usually ask their parents for permission before they have sex. What we would do for the student is advise them where they can get birth control information. If they're not willing to talk to their parents, we do advise them of their rights, that they do have a right under law to see a physician or to go to the local health department, and they can obtain information about birth control there.
Do you have similar facilities in Caverna like the ones that Kris has just described in Barron County for girls that are pregnant or have already had children and still in school?
No, we do not. It's interesting at Caverna, even though a part of our students live in Hart County, and Hart County has one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the state. It's right up there in the very top. Even though that's true, Caverna does not seem to have as much of a problem with teen pregnancy as the surrounding counties. I'm not really sure why that is. There's only just, you know, maybe one or two girls at a time that are having a pregnancy that we know of, and because of the small numbers, we haven't had the need to have a program, say for instance with you know, with having a daycare on the facility. I have met with, you know, individually with several teens that have been pregnant, and I provide services in the sense of providing education about, you know, I hook them up with other services. There's a real good program called the Resource Mothers Program, which is a home visiting program through the health department. I refer them to those programs. I also make home visits myself, and I have a lot of educational material on having a healthy pregnancy and on childbirth. And in fact, I myself am a certified childbirth educator. So I provide services myself, but we really don't have enough, thank goodness, you know, enough pregnant teens at Caverna that we need to have a special program.
Go ahead.
I don't really understand why that is. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm glad that that's the case.
Do you find that the situation, well, you haven't been there long enough. I think I'll go back to Kris over here on this question, because I take it you've been with the Barron County system for a few years at least.
Yes, quite a few years.
That's what I assumed. Do you find that the situation insofar as teen pregnancy is concerned is improving or getting worse?
Well, there appears to be more teen pregnancies. Maybe it's because like I said, society is more accepting. Maybe in the past, the girls dropped out of school. Well, in fact, back, you want to say in the dark ages when we were in school, you were asked to leave school if you were pregnant. You were not allowed to be there.
Well, as far as dark ages is concerned, when I was going to grade school and high school, if you had a teacher that, even though she was married and became pregnant, she could no longer teach.
Right.
While she was pregnant. So, yeah, I know where you're coming from.
So, I think as society has changed, we are seeing more teen parents. It is more accepted, and we definitely encourage these girls to continue to go to school, because without an education, I mean, they are nothing. They're going to be on the welfare rolls. They're going to be these children, receiving AFDC, food stamps. We want these children to do the best they can, and we have many girls who have gone on to vocational school, to college. One of our teen moms was 8 in her graduating class. I mean, it is not a stereotype. It's not low class, middle class, whatever. I mean, there are no class
Not confined to any social class.
No social class. It can happen to anyone, and we do the best we can to help these girls to continue their life and to have get a good education and to provide them with parenting skills so that these children will grow and become citizens and be helpful into our society. We've had one little girl, she was at the daycare ever since she's been, a couple of days old. No, I mean a couple of weeks old. And now her mom is a senior, well the mother was a sophomore when the baby was born. So, we all feel like that we've just grown up with this child. And she's just precious. So we have a vested interest in her future and hope that she continues to receive proper parenting, and we know that she is getting good care, and Mrs. Bailey is fantastic. I mean, she watches over these mothers, and if we, in our group, support groups, if we see that one's having a problem, I know I personally bought one before we had the youth service center, bought her medicine last year, and Miss Bailey bought her child birthday presents because the girl was living on her own. She was working very hard, many hours, and had everything was just, she didn't have the funds, but she was coming to school every day and she was trying her best. So, maybe we overprotect them, I don't know.
In either district or both, does the center provide child care for working parents after school's out until the parents get off from work? Either system, right. Whoever wants to answer.
One of the components of that applies more to the family resource centers. One of the components of our program is that we have to have something to do with daycare providers. And what we did, we did in our survey that we did in the KERA district, we found that that there was sufficient daycare for, as far as like full-time daycare. But what we did, we were able to
there was a need for
after-school daycare, say for children who were more like 5th, 6th grade age, where a lot of these children were being left at home because maybe the parent felt like they did not need to go to a babysitter, but yet their children still need supervision. So we were able this year to get an agreement with the YMCA and get an after-school program established at KERA for the students at the elementary school, and that's going very well.
Is there a similar system in the Barron system, Alan?
The YMCA does operate programs such as Kathy mentioned at all of our elementary schools. However, one of the components of a youth service center, since we are set up to service middle school and high school students, the need for after-school child care is not as great as it would be for elementary school. We have a different set of components other than a family resource center, so we try to target other areas, and we just didn't find that this was a need for our youth service center.
Now, one of the needs that your center could help, and probably does, is a matter of placing graduates or helping them obtain employment, or getting them into vocational schools or something after they graduate. What type of services do you have for that?
Well, when a student comes to us that has questions about career opportunities, vocational training, those type of programs, we just talk to them about what they want to do as far as what happens after school, and we can assist them with career training, vocational kinds of placements. We can also help them with job training, helping them fill out an application, something as simple as that, helping them go through a structured interview if that's what they need some assistance with. Just the basic kinds of things to help them get a job, or to help them to think more about their future and what they want to do after school's out.
Do you have any contact with employers that may be wanting recent graduates, and you provide that information to students?
With us being a new first-year center, part of our job is to try to link up with employers to find out exactly what their needs are. Glasgow and Barron counties were fortunate to have a lot of job opportunities out there. So if a student does come to us, for example, looking for a part-time job, we are fairly much able to link them up with a local business that can use them. We are trying to establish a directory of jobs available in our community to kind of get some idea of what employers ask for as far as high school diplomas, college degrees, advanced vocational training, those type of things, so we can give that information back to the students. And if they come to us and say, well, I'm interested in this career, we can kind of give them some direction as far as education. And if they need assistance with that, look at ways that we can help them obtain those goals.
Kris, do you have to reapply each year for a grant, or once you're qualified, how long does it last?
Well, each grant is on a one-year award basis, but after it has been funded, you simply make a continuation grant. I think Kathy could probably address that better than it's not nearly as involved or lengthy as the initial grant. Now, if we ever get our Family Resource Center grants funded, then we will go on a continuation grant. And as long as the funds are at the state level, we should be in line to receive those, and the center should be funded from then on.
Kathy, did you have much trouble getting the second year funding?
No, I didn't. As Ms. Bixler said, once that you've been funded, you're pretty much assured that you're going to be refunded the next year, as long as you're doing everything that you're supposed to do and you submit the proper grant. You're basically, what you're doing when you reapply is submitting another work plan, where you're telling the state what your program needs are. Maybe you've identified some new needs that you did not know when you originally had the program. So your work plan does change, and it's not as difficult as making the original application.
Quickly, there's virtually nothing these days that escapes criticism. Has your program had any criticism? And again, I'm talking to you, Kathy, in regard to KERA.
As far as the program at KERA, we really haven't. We've had tremendous community support, and we're continually complimented on the accomplishments we've had. I think that statewide, there may have been, some people may have seen some things in the press, that there has been some concern about centers in general, that as far as like fiscal management, that there seems there's been some concern. I think there's been some correction that we did not get as much fiscal guidance as we should have originally. But as far as my particular center, I really haven't received much criticism.
Kris, have you been, your system been the subject of criticism?
Not directly, no. Our system, everybody has been very receptive to having the Youth Service Center. We've had a little turmoil. We've had some turnover in personnel, which has caused us a little delay in getting off of to a really good start. I feel like with Alan and Sheila Hunt, who is our new program assistant, things are going to go very smoothly. There has been some concern expressed that we were dispensing birth control, and we do not.
That's been all over the state.
It's been all over the state, and I just want it to be very clear. We do not.
Our time's about up. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.